Hi, I'm Jill Wolcott, and I'm going to talk about yarn substitutions today. Sun has just gotten very active here after a weekend of rain. So, why did we substitute yarn? Excuse me. Well, why not? We all have lots of yarn. Hey, Anne Marie. And, whatever the designer, yarn company, whoever put the pattern out envisions, we always have our own ideas. So I don't feel like I actively substitute yarn because I am the person choosing the yarn. Sorry, as soon as I read something on the screen, I lose my mind. So I was inspired to, let me just grab my dress form here. So I was inspired to talk about yarn substitution because, is that really terrible? It is. Maybe I can move her over here. It's a good thing about having small space. I have to just lower that a tad. I hate this time of year to shut out the sun. Because soon enough we will have little sun here in Seattle. Okay, so here she is. And you can see how kind of wide this neckline is. Now, of course, I can't see the other version right now. Oh, there it is. And it has a completely different feeling at the neckline, even though I used the same number of stitches, the same needles, etc. So you can see that this one has a much nicer, flatter, smaller neckline. And it's really because of the difference in how this rib reacted. So this one is, let's line up the stitches. It feels more open, and it looks like I did slightly fewer rows. Boredom, I'm sure. So I know what the fiber content is of these yarns. So this one has merino in it, and also silk. There's slightly more silk, 55%. And then this one is silk and cashmere. So what do we know about cashmere and silk? Well, silk we know has like no memory. And this is where I dropped a stitch. And of course didn't see it. So it's just going to flatten out. And I can pull it so it's narrower, but then it's not going to stay there. So the difference, I think this one is 45% cashmere and 55% silk. So by substituting cashmere for wool, we lost elasticity. And then, so these two yarns are the same structure in terms of plies. And as I pull out these little bits from my, so they look almost exactly the same. The brown and turquoise one, or aqua, I guess. Actually, it's kind of a celadon color. Is 2-ply, and as is the merino silk, but it has a much tighter twist. So that's between you have to look at the fiber and or fibers, and you have to look at the ply, and then you can even, if you know anything about it, can look at the twist of the yarn. Um, so 2-ply, but much tighter twist on this one, and so 2-ply, looser twist, and you can just see that there's hardly any stretch. And I now have to take my sweater off. So I have a variety of yarns in front of me. So I think you can make the Chios cowl in anything, but you should know that you may have to accommodate some differences in the yarn. So I have this one, which is merino and some sort of rayon. And I think it may be bamboo, but it's very flat, has no memory at all. So it's also very slippery. So that one's going to flatten out a lot. So you would have to use a much tighter needle on the neckband, which is totally fine. You can totally change that. Here's 100%. Get my fingers so you can see it. 100% cormo, which is wool, and it too is a 2-ply, I think. And you can see that there's a lot of give in this, and that when the yarn relaxes, it gets a little bit thicker. So this is lace weight, and I'm going to just, yeah, it's just a 2-ply. Here's, can't remember what this is. It's got good bounce to it. It is a 3-ply, loosely plied, and from my experience with knitting it here, I would say it's a pretty flat yarn. It's not going to give you a lot of bounce, but it does have good memory. So I was kind of looking around for different types of yarn, because a lot of the yarns I have are virtually the same. So here's a single ply, and so there is no twist to this. It's a single, but it does have pretty good memory. I think it may be superwash merino. This may be my next Chios shawl. Here's a beautiful yarn, Cape Breton from Nova Scotia. So it's alpaca, which would be great in this cowl because the cowl has so much space that's open. Alpaca is really hot, and it's completely flat. Let's see if I can free up a piece here. So it's a 3-ply. It's nicely plied, tightly plied, but there's like very little give to it. And so cashmere, alpaca, what else do we use in knitting? That's, I want to say a camelid, mohair, just from a goat. Anything not from a sheep is hair as opposed to fleece, and it's not going to have as much memory. So this would be very pretty in this, but I'd want to do the neckband on a tighter. And same with this one. What is this? So this one is llama. And so again, it's going to be pretty warm. This one is slippery. So you'd really have to do that neckband on a tighter needle. So I do. um, and here's an organic merino from Patagonia, and it is 2-ply. Or is it 3? No, it's 2. The plies are tightly spun, and there's some give to it, but I'm thinking this is not going to have as much memory as some other things. So let's see. I've been knitting with this yarn, and it's a superwash merino and something else. Doesn't have good memory. So it would be more like the brown one. And so here is the stitch pattern. This is a superwash merino. And it's got good stretch, but it's not going to bounce back to shape. So this I blocked out, and here's the same thing, but in different color. And it's got some bounce to it. So it is going to close up a little bit. I mean, I can pull this to be more open, like on the lace weight ones, but it's going to return to where it naturally goes. So here's the twisted rib pattern, and it's got more give to it, but it's called a rib, but it's not a rib with good recovery to it. Whenever you have 2 purl stitches, it tends to not recover as well. And then these knit stitches are twisted, so they're not very flexible. And then I've got my 3 twisted stitches, and they too are not very flexible. So it's all a matter of understanding your yarn. There's like nothing wrong with substitutions, but you need to understand what your yarn is going to do, and then also what the original yarn did. So I've got these 2 slightly different fabrics out of the lace weight, and I know from this and from the fiber that I use that these are going to be flat and open. There's not a lot of memory to it. I just love this in the back where I put short rows in. So I know that, and it's because of the fiber content. So if I did my next one in something that has more memory to it, there's going to be some pulling in, and I'm going to want to put a different amount of ease in to accommodate that. So this one, I can stretch it out either way, but it's going to go back to its relaxed position where the brown one really stays wide open. This one you can see in the mesh that there is some room for expansion. So when it comes around your shoulders, it can stretch a little bit. But so you just have to know what the original yarn did. And is that going to be different in the yarn of your choice? And is the gauge going to work? So in this particular cowl, there's 3 different needle sizes. So there's the neckband needle, which is a size 2 US, a 2.5 millimeter. The next needle is, which I call the primary needle, is, I think it's a 4 US, 3.5 millimeter, and the bottom needle is a US 5, 3.75 millimeter. So based on your yarn, would you need to go, so I've gone 2, 4, 5. So would you want to go, let's say you're using this yarn. Did they make a recommendation here? Which I'm thinking for me, I might do it on a 5 for the neckband and a 7 and an 8. So what did I do? I jumped from a 5, 3.75, to a 7, which is 4.5, to an 8, which is 5. In the original, I did 2.5, 3.5, and 3.75. So, how would you want to jump? And at this higher, thicker weight, your needles don't change quite as much. So you go from, there is no like 0.75 until you get into the 10s. So you would need to experiment a little bit. What are you going to get in that neckband, which I think is the most important piece because it's the stabilizing piece. And if I weren't lazy, I would take this brown one out and redo it, redo the neckband. The rest of it is fine, except for that dress. So I say, go ahead and substitute. Take advantage of all the beautiful fibers in the yarns out there. You can see that. So here's kind of a speckled yarn with a tonal dye. Here's just a tonal dye. This one is hand painted, so lots of variation. And the brown one is the same, but I think with longer runs of color. But any of these that I have here, I think would work really well. Is there anything else I want to say about yarn substitution? So do always look at the original yarn and see what it's bringing to the party, and then see what your fibers are bringing and make adjustments for them. Let's see, there was one last thing. Oh, so in my pattern, when it goes out next week, you can use any size yarn. I think the smallest number of stitches to the inch that I allow is 2.5, and I go up to 10 stitches to the inch. So within that, you can definitely choose. And the only restriction is that I tell you how many stitches to cast on for your swatch, and I use a yarn table or a stitch table so that the 2.5 to 10 is what's on the table or what's in the table. But you can totally do this at whatever gauge you want. I'm kind of interested in doing it. I would say this is a bulky yarn, kind of between bulky and Aran, maybe. This one is about the same, but as I said, it's a lot slipperier. So we know it works in lace. This is DK weight. I'm going to try it in the really much larger gauge. I'm not knitting it at 10 stitches to the inch, not my bag. So have fun. And I did not experiment with changing color on this at all. And I don't think I would. It's just too much work. But you could use something like this that just has, I think those are called neps. Here, this is beautiful Shetland. Is it Shetland? Oh, merino, sorry. But it is a more rustic yarn, and it's got a lot of kind of color variation within it without being tonal. It's got like greenish and brown and red. Or you could do something like that. I actually love working with just plain yarn. So that's about what I have for yarn substitution. The Pattern Tailor is, of course, designed to do that. So if you buy the ebook this week, you get the swatching instructions. On Substack, I posted my table of contents for the section 1 of the pattern. And so you've got my schematics, how to take measurements, swatching instructions, both flat and in the round, and how to gather information that you're going to need for the Pattern Tailor. So, over here someplace, I have, so tomorrow I'm going to post a video about working the 2-stitch patterns, and then on Wednesday, I'll show you how to take the measurements. There are instructions, but some people prefer to see it done. And then Thursday, I'm going to be over on Instagram to talk to Lindsay Luchuk. And then on Friday, I'll be back here at noon to talk more about the Pattern Tailor. I can't really show you the Pattern Tailor when I'm on live, but I'll have a video to share with you, or that you can access. And Saturday, I'll show you how I did the German short rows and how I've referenced doing it in the pattern. And then because one of the things that I love about doing work with other designers is that I get to see how they do things. I never really approve, but so how I kind of sorted out working with their patterns. And I say that hopefully because I am really struggling with doing the double knitting because I can't remember when to switch the yarns. And I have to go study the directions a little bit to see how to do that effectively. And Lindsay has you working like both of the stitches across each row, where I've always done double knitting where you work one color across and then you work the other color across. And I may have to go to that because I'm such an idiot about color knitting. And I just saw I do these little wraps per inch cards. And so what this does is you wrap it a number of times. Let's see if this one's probably a good color. So it's in 1 inch, and then you count how many times you wrapped. And so this one, I've got 2 different. So one is 16 and one is 17. I've done the same pattern with each, but knowing the wraps per inch, it does tell you how much space the yarn is going to take up. So here's deluxe worsted from Universal Yarn, and it's just it's not a specialty wool, so it's not a particular, it's just wool. And this is 12 wraps per inch. So I would need a different gauge to work the same pattern, but I could certainly work the same pattern that I did in this. And that's what the Pattern Tailor is meant to do, is to make that little adjustment for you. Here's one for a yarn that's no longer available, 18 wraps per inch. So this would be an excellent substitute, but it would be just slightly heavier. So these are things that I look at in making substitutions: 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. So this superwash merino that I'm using is 16 wraps per inch. I don't know what that lace weight is. I'm going to have to, it's got to be more than 17. I don't have anything close at hand. The other thing that I thought I would just briefly show you are these. These will be out in December. So these are my Boulevard de Canutes, where you get this fabulous color play. So this one is in luster from Anzula and Lata from Queen City. And so the luster is lighter weight. And here's one that I did where I used a worsted weight. This is a 12-ply recycled cashmere yarn. And then I've got a lace weight, which is similar to, I think, the brown one here from Sweet Georgia. And so you get a really different effect. And then I've got this one where I used mohair, and I think this is, it's from, what's it called in London? Well, who knows? It's a sock yarn. And then this mohair, and but I have more. So here it's got more rows of mohair than the sock yarn, and here through the neck I always do them the same. So it's narrower through the neck. But these are all basically, one of the joys of being old is that you get to exclaim every time you bend over. So I'm interested to, oh, here we go. So I switched the neckband so that you're getting two views of the same color combination. And so this is, they're both DK weight, so they're both about the same, so you're not getting kind of the dramatic difference between the fabrics. And I love them all. And this is why I say, to me, it's not yarn substitution. This is just a pile of exploring possibility. So I'd love it if you bought the book. I would buy it this week if you're thinking about it, because it'll be $18 next week. So because I'm not quite ready to do the pattern, we are giving you an extra week to get it. I totally have loved working on color conduit. And I'll talk more about it later this week because I have to finish my last piece. But so this is what they look at like. I'm calling them caterpillars because that's what they remind me of. And I'm going to join them so you can see how it looks. Christine gives excellent instructions. I had to read them a couple of times to make my choices. And I will say that Lindsay's instructions are good and her videos are great. And it's totally me. So don't be put off by the fact that I'm struggling with it. I mean, I can barely do stranded knitting. I'm just not good at following that kind of directions. We all have our limitations. So anyhow, thank you for coming. And I hope that you've learned something for substituting your yarn. See you next time.